identify and pick up patients within 24 hours. And I'm absolutely wedded to the idea that 24 hours in crisis is a very important window for not only the patient but also the family.
It's a challenge to plan. We have to just go in and just see what happens. Just got to be incredibly responsive.
And this was what I was finding in mainstream psychological interventions, is that we would see people 2-3 years on, and it was very much harder to treat and move people forward because we didn't have the opportunity and window to make sense of that very early crisis, which actually, when you sit with it, often does make a lot of sense. A perfectly understandable response to the current situation. And I think if we don't take that attitude in at that very early days, but instead go in with medication or hospitalisation or it'll all be better soon, don't worry, sort of simple responses, then we lose that opportunity, that very early stage to really develop the psychological resources within the person and within the family. When we're in crisis, our mind and our people around us are desperate to help make sense of this.
I sat outside many rooms, as did Tom, whilst our family was discussed by people that we didn't know and we never saw them again. And I just question how that is supposed to help anybody.
The family hold in their mind the person they know who's also strong and happy, not only the person who's sad and struggling. So I come in, I see the sad and struggling person. I don't know the history of when this person was happy or okay, but the family do. So they kind of fill in the picture. So I have a whole picture of somebody.
When I was in like the deepest stage of it, I just felt so alone. I just felt like even my own sister, who I've grown up with, is just looking at me and doesn't understand anything,
Open Dialogue gave us that opportunity really to explore everything and to talk to one another and get to know really everyone's sort of secrets and not judge one another on whatever we might be or not be. And
our first session in the hospital was just so powerful, wasn't it? Yeah. It was just amazing. Yeah. It was like you just sort of come out and you felt like you just unloaded lots of stuff and you'd been heard. It was like we'd all said a little bit and we'd all had our say and we'd been listened to and they'd made comments back to us and it felt like you were getting somewhere. There was this little fire that had been lit and it was burning and we were just keeping it going. Yeah. And then we were sort of able to continue to keep that ball rolling and keep that sort of fire going. Yeah.
One of the things that individuals and families have really valued is the flexibility of the model.
Whether that's length of meeting, frequency of meetings, or place of meetings.
At the end of the meeting, we always say, when would you like to meet again? And we actually mean that. We're not like, so same time next week? How about a month? We're really going, when do you want to meet again? And if they say we want to meet tomorrow, then we're all like looking in our diaries and going, okay, so how can we make this work so there's some continuity if some of us are actually seeing this person who've already seen them a few times?
That flexibility means that individuals don't need to hold the crisis for longer than they feel able to, and always knowing that there's a service there who can come out and respond at a time that feels appropriate for them.
If we had a session here, we could sit here for an hour, 2 hours. There was never any time. It was never sort of like, oh right, you've finished your time now. Yeah. We're off. Yeah. And that was really good, to know that we could let out what we needed to say or cry or whatever.
Often we find in services that people are given the responsibility to seek care from different aspects. So you go away and ask the GP to refer them, you to there, or you go and seek help for that problem over there. The responsibility here I see is the care coordinator or the clinician takes responsibility for A, arranging the meetings, and B, involving other people, agencies if needs be along, rather than effectively a list of people that the patient or the family member has to contact.
Continuity of care is absolutely crucial. There are huge issues for both service users and carers about shame and guilt and not being able to manage. And as a young man, he found that very difficult to talk to people about, and just constantly seeing different people in different services. Not only did we see the crisis team, and every day they came it would be somebody different, but also when he was sectioned and wasn't in the same area because there were no beds, so you'd be sent to, then it would be a whole new team again. So just constant change of people the whole time, and he disengaged from services many times and would end up back in services in absolute crisis.
The story evolves over time, and if you're with people throughout the whole of their journey as a team, that story evolves together and you're part of that story. You're not kind of a visitor that comes in and asks for the history. It's just you become part of the story.
Laying down memories of the same people involved, so that our conversation here now, if we were to reconvene tomorrow, will be not forgotten. We've already developed as some sort of relationship.
And it feels safer, I think, having a familiar face. It's just sensible.
In essence, it's about not making hasty decisions about treatment in that first high-risk crisis point, holding and sharing responsibility for the risks. So I might own my worry about a risk for someone who may be in need of help, but we also share that with the family members and the person themselves.
If we're able to sit with that distress sometimes and not jump to a quick conclusion or resolution that might cause the distress to go away without understanding it, then I think it opens up the options for that individual and for us as a collective network to think about what might be most helpful.
I don't think we tolerate uncertainty. I think we accept uncertainty. Sometimes we embrace uncertainty and make it a cup of tea and go, hi, yes, I'm feeling a bit uncertain. I don't know what's going to happen. And sometimes it's hard to tolerate it and we're just existing with it. But it's this idea, again, that we don't know what's going on for the other person, that we can't predict what's going to happen, that we don't respond to our own anxiety of what can we do to help with a fix, that we just believe in the process that with our support and with the support of the network that we'll figure it out.
And what helps that person maintain their agency of self without losing that, without going away, seeing themselves as a label or a diagnosis, but actually seeing themselves as a human being whose experiences have been validated, and giving that person then time to think, now what do I want to do?
So it's about holding our anxiety, individually and as a team. Generously wanting to understand the other.
It's not when I ask a clever question and you go, oh my God, that was a really useful question, it helped me gain an insight. It's not that kind of conversation. It's something about the person who's talking, whether that's the person who's seen as having the crisis or their family. It's usually everyone's having some kind of crisis at that point, that they say something and you really try to hear it and respond to it, not adding extra things into it, but just responding to that kind of moment, responding to what you're seeing, what you're feeling, but not kind of going, yes, so what about this? It's something about really connecting.
People like to have the space to explore what's gone on in their lives. They don't want to be fired with a list of questions. What they want is to just have the space to say, this has happened in my life. This is really making me feel bad at the moment. And that the family contribute to that as well. The family are able to say what they think might have caused the difficulties that person's having.
Just by talking about what has happened, what trauma, what events has led us to where we are, and that we can all talk about it in a safe space is so helpful for many people.
I guess there's a culture in the NHS of kind of having a solid line, the professional line, that we're presenting a united front so that there's no splitting and all these other things that people talk about. And actually in open dialogue, the whole point is that we can talk about our differences of opinion and perspective and what strikes us, as individuals, and that can be different and should be different to the person next to us. So actually tentatively raising differences of opinion and getting used to that and feeling that that's okay to do in front of the family and that you're not breaking any code. I think that's obviously a challenge. But if we can show that we can do that, it's the idea that actually the family can disagree with us too. It's not like we're trying to convince anyone of anything. We're trying to promote curiosity. And I think that has the potential to change people's lives.
Each individual person gets, you know...
Yeah.
To say what they wanted to say without judgment.
Yeah.
I do feel that there's, again, someone behind you guys.
It's a bit of a cliche, but you just felt really comfortable and at ease with open dialogue. That, again, like I said before, that you had someone on your side, someone batting your sort of corner.
Yeah,
like.
yeah. Which in a situation like that,
it wasn't doctors, and
no.
It didn't ever feel like to me it was like doctors and people that
and
were
telling you what to
high
do.
and mighty and well, you know, you should really be doing this and taking exercise.
It was just it was just listening and
drinking
talking,
water.
like we said.
Yeah.
And it sounds so ordinary, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But that's all it is.
But yeah,
and it's made the world a difference to us.